What harmful ideas are being taught to children? External validation. Constantly chasing likes and followers. The unbearable weight of keeping up appearances. Lives and bodies that aren't perfect seem to have no value. Yes. TikTok is something kids need to get off of. In China, Chinese kids get inspirational and encouraging videos. Videos of other kids accomplishing crazy feats. US and other countries' kids get the latest dance craze. Shit's done by design. There's algorithms built in and tech people have been sounding the alarm from day one. Also cause the Chinese government is literally gathering personal data on everyone using TikTok. It is basically spyware. As I was leaving elementary school, they decided to implement some sort of reading level. You were not allowed to read a book that was higher than your level. Now, for context, I am avid reader. I got an 8th grade level of reading. I was reading Sybil by 6th grade. However, I do not do well in subjects such as math because it doesn't make sense to me. So, we got tested and I got my score, a nice, high score. Something my parents would be proud of me for. In the school's library, I go to grab a book I thought was interesting. A Secret Garden, I think it was called? It was a high level, so of course, 9-10-year-old me thought I was allowed to read it. My goddamn 5th grade teacher yanked it from me, and I wasn't allowed to read it because I wouldn't understand it and gave me a picture book. I tried to protest and say I got a good level, but he said no, I didn't and I was lying. To this day, I hold massive resentment towards him and the system that says, you can't do this because you got a poor grade on it. Think of how easily that could turn people away from doing things. How many more kids could we get into reading if we didn't say, no, you can't because you won't understand? Then, if they won't understand, help them. Teach them. Isn't that why we're here? To teach kids? Anyways, I looked up a book I received for Christmas because I wanted to learn how to write reviews for autobiographies. I'm disgusted to say that stupid level system is still around. The system is awful. We need to change it and start encouraging and, being adults to our kids instead of letting things be as they are. I had a similar situation with one of my 7th grade teachers, except it was for math. We would do those 60-second math sheet things, you have a minute to complete as many problems as possible. At this point, I was very solid with my basic math, but I was super slow, still am this way. Anyways, since I could only answer 5 to 10 of these 60 problems in 60 seconds compared to my peers who could answer 15 to 30, my best friend was even able to complete the page. My teacher refused to let me study with the advanced math group and instead had me work more on simple additions and subtractions, 1 plus 3, 4 to 2, etc. It was humiliating, honestly. Even with being told to do these very basic problems, people in the advanced math group would ask me to tutor them or break down a problem. My teacher was super annoyed by this too and put a stop to it. Eventually, my parents had to get involved because the teacher was holding me back so much that I was having panic attacks while doing math problems. That being said, in high school, I had some fantastic math teachers and was put into an accelerated math program. Now I'm doing a Bachelor's of Science in Biotech with a physics minor, so math is an ever-present thing in my studies. However, if I didn't have to move away from that school and didn't get the instruction from those awesome math teachers, I likely would still be terrified to do math. We should encourage kids to do math or to read, not punish them for being slow or for having a bad score on an arbitrary test. If they don't understand the content, teach them critical thinking so they can learn the content. I am pretty sure I was out in lower classes in elementary school because I was poor. I would score 99% on all the standardized tests, but I was in the second highest reading class and the lowest math class. When I reached middle school, I got put in all the gifted and talented classes, so it was a huge jump. It was hard, but finally caught up on English and reading. Anyway, never caught up in math until I went into the Navy. I was a nuclear machinist mate and they retaught us math in a school. Algebra, physics, trig up to pre-calc. I remember my chief pulling me aside in power school and telling me that based on just my math I had only missed 3 points. Not 3% but 3 points. So it turns out I am fucking good at math. When I got out and went to college, I crushed every math course and got 3.9 GPA overall. I used to work at a movie theater back in the day, and I'll never forget witnessing a kid pick up their trash on their way out like a responsible person and their mother instructing them to put it back down because it is not their responsibility. Probably way more harmful things being taught to kids, but the story just came back to my mind. Fuck that mom, not literally. When I worked at a multiplex, we had maybe 15 minutes in between showings to clean up. I get that some spills are bound to happen, But so many people just left all their garbage on the seats, the floor, the stairs. It was disgusting. How hard is it to just take your stuff with you and throw it in the garbage cans on your way out? So as a child I remember being taught, like actually taught, that movie theaters were the one place you left all your trash the same as you do when you finish eating at a restaurant. I am 30 now and can't remember the last time I left my trash after realizing in my 20s there were accessible trash cans there for a reason. I know it sounds like an ignorant realization, but it happened lol. Now I teach my own children to pick up their shit. That questioning authority is a bad thing. Alternatively, that all authority is bad and trying to get you. There's a middle ground here somewhere. That's the thing. You're not supposed to blanket question or bend over for authority. You're supposed to think critically, do your own, legitimate research, and come up with an educated opinion on your own. But instead of teaching the skills to do that, we just treat authority like sports teams or superhero movies. Greater than you're supposed to think critically, do your own, legitimate research, and come up with an educated opinion on your own. I noticed that during COVID, people began using do your own research as a sort of punchline to make fun of anti-maskers and pandemic deniers, who would often spout that line to encourage people to check out dubious or dangerous sources. Which, by all means, make fun of those idiots and that behavior, they're dumb and deserve it. But it's unnerving how do your own research, as a concept, is being painted as a dog whistle for anti-science or anti-intellectualism. Everyone should be doing this, alongside striving for digital and media literacy, of course. I have one. This is very common in my country. You know, kids run a lot, and they fall a lot. Most of the time, luckily, they do not get hurt seriously. Sometimes, they simply are just fine. But they cry regardless. I was one of those kids. Whenever that happened, parents would rush to their kids, and they slap on the ground, or whatever object nearby, saying, "Punish the ground for hurting my baby." Now, that may sound sweet if you were that kid, but gradually it could teach the kid something so dangerous. When you fall, it is something else, or someone else's fault. Kids will grow up blaming everything around them for their failures, before questioning themselves. I remembered clearly this time when I just fell off the ground while playing, cried my lung out, and my whole family was in a mess. Especially my dad. He was so worried, checking my totally pain-free body for any wound, and kept asking, "What made you fall? Was it a rock? Or was it your friend? Did she push you, Dad?" I wanted to say, "I really just fell off myself." Reminded me of the time I was working retail and I came busting out of the back with an armload of boxes and nailed a little kid who had been standing right in front of the doors. Sent him flying. I panicked thinking the mom was going to freak out, but instead she just told the kid, "I told you not to stand there." That's why. Whatever happened to that style of parenting, lol? Kinda happened to me today. Brought my daughter to a playground where they had a tube slide that circles itself, so you can't see the end of the tube. My daughter is too little to ride it herself, so I took her with me on my lap. As we reached the end of the slide, I saw a shadow between my legs and realized I was about to slide tackle a 4-year-old who was climbing up the slide the wrong way. I had no chance to change the outcome, and within a split second, I basically yeeted this kid into the sand at the end of the slide. A hectic second later his mother picked him up and just said, "I told you several times not climb the slide." Luckily he wasn't hurt, just crying, and the mother apologized to me actually. They don't have an opinion. I'm breaking generational curses by simply listening to my kids. Yep, growing up my mom never listened to me and I am just now realizing how fucked up that has made adult me. One funny one that comes to mind. I don't like cake. Every year I asked for a pie for my birthday, and every year I got cake. Every fucking year another time she took me to the store so I could pick out my bed sheets. I picked my favorite and she was surprised I didn't go with this other kind that she liked. A week later she said she got me my bed sheets. I go out and she bought the ones she liked, not the ones I picked out. When asked why they want children, there is a larger than I am comfortable with amount of people who say it's so they have something that loves them unconditionally. Totally ignoring how they or their siblings feel about their own parents, but also, not thinking for 1 second about the fact that they are bringing a whole-ass human being into the world that will have their own unique thoughts, feelings, needs, opinions, and identities. They seem to just want a person who is exactly like them in every way, thinking you can somehow train an identity into someone like they're a dog, honestly worse than a dog. Even dogs have their own unique identities that have little to do with training or parentage. I'm sorry your mom was so gross to you growing up. Mine was, too. I'm grateful as an adult I can forge my own destiny and find my chosen family who actually does love me for me. I hope you find yours, too. Your parents are always right. This may be synonymous to the mother, father knows best. I hated hearing that from my father when I was young. My parents are both anti-vaxxers. They know so well I'm taking a pharmaceutical chemistry degree. Also, one of them supports Putin and is probably a mild climate crisis denier. No wonder I'll cut as much as I can the moment I'll be independent. Other personal reasons too, which are not that relevant and don't feel like adding here. Anyone in this classroom able to play piano? An elementary school teacher asks. Nobody raise a hand until this one little girl doubtfully raise her hand. Really? You can play piano? Please show us how you play. With a heart pounding so hard like it's never before, the little girl plays a simple classic song. Definitely not perfect. Missed notes here and there, but she keeps going. After she finished playing, the teacher says, "What was that?" It's not a real song. Anyone else able to play piano? Everybody laugh. Later, the little girl begging her parents to let her quit her piano lessons. It happens to me when I was about 8 years old. If people are wondering why kids are mean and bully, the answer is, adults taught them to be. Fuck that teacher, hope they stop teaching. That's exactly the opposite of how a teacher should treat their students. Staying quiet means good behavior. Woohoo. I got a 4, 100%, on respect in class cuz I didn't do shit. Guess what? I was in my edgy piece of fucking narcissistic shitbag phase. Not specifically taught, but more so an effect of how we teach kids. Smart and gifted kids in school aren't challenged enough. Those that do very well, even in a specific subject instead of overall, aren't taught proper work ethic because they excel already and don't need to work as hard. Since they aren't challenged early, they don't learn how to work when challenged, and they end up doing poorly in school later in life. I know it's hard to do, but we really need to be aware that we're setting kids up to fail when we don't properly challenge them. This, 100%. I was a gifted and talented kid. Easy A's without working for them, even in AP classes. Then I got to college. And oof. I had no idea how to study. Nobody ever taught me different study strategies. I struggled mightily my first 2 years, which was quite the mindfuck after being used to being the smart kid forever. Same thing happened to me and I couldn't understand why I was so bad at college. I started having severe panic attacks junior year and ended up dropping out senior year. Nobody gets why I did it, but the anxiety of returning to school fills me with so much dread I've never gone back. This was 15 years ago now and I've been able to achieve success regardless, so this of course led me to heavy resentment towards anyone being forced into college. That anyone you spend time with of the opposite sex is automatically your boy, girlfriend. Instills the idea that you can only be friends with those of the same gender as you, which is messed up. What did you do at break time today? I had fun playing with Sarah. Ooh, is Sarah your girlfriend? And, he's only mean to you because he likes you. That's just normalizing bullying, and it's ridiculous people do that too. It's also normalizing tolerating bad boyfriends because apparently, boys are mean to girls they like. That children can't be sad. Children can be sad, and as someone who had struggled with mental illness ever since I was 8, I can confirm. Children are humans just like us, they have emotions. You can be depressed even if your age isn't in the double digits. I would also like to add another one, the "it will get better," and "just put on a happy face" mentality. Unfortunately, life is a bitch. It will not get better. You get better. Depression doesn't fade away just because you are smiling. I wish it was that easy, but it isn't. Stop trying to reinsure and make excuses for your child's mental health. Actually, get your ass up and help them. Same with anxiety. My family has a history of anxiety and I've always very clearly suffered from it a lot, but my mum recently told me that she never told me about it cause she figured if I didn't know then it would go away. It didn't do that though, and it just resulted in me not knowing how to deal with it for my whole life and finding everything so much harder than it needs to be now. Same with ADHD and autism. It was incredibly obvious that I had issues, but they were ignored because they might just go away on their own. But now I just have to deal with them cause the NHS is shit and I can't afford to get privately diagnosed with anything. Bye work bye work bye die. You forgot give it all to the healthcare industry and then die. Yes, and die in debt. That they need to have everything lined up by age 16 to 18, and if they don't, it'll have serious consequences. Bad grade? No one will ask about it in a couple years. No friends, social life? Get some new ones in college. Don't know what to do with your life yet? Join the club, honey, we got jackets. Most of us grown-ups aren't sure either. The amount of high school kids I've seen beating themselves up, even having full breakdowns over all these things, is honestly worrying. 18 is not a deadline. Your life isn't set in its tracks forever by 20. Who on earth is teaching them these things? For anyone who reads this, I am 17 years out of high school. So far I have been 1. A welder, 3 months, 2. An industrial powder painter, 2.5 years, 3. A moving man, 1 month, 4. A commercial truck driver, 18-wheelers for 3 years, 5. A customer support specialist, 3 years, 6. An assembly line worker, 2 months. I am currently in school to become an engineer. I'm working as a hedge trimmer over the fall. I read this originally as you were 17 years old. Made me lol after I realized that you weren't driving commercial vehicles at 14. Boys don't cry. This hits way too hard. This alone makes me hope that if I do ever have children, at least one of them is a boy and they're as emotional of a person that I am. That way I know the exact words they need to hear when they're going through a hard time. Instead of being taught to suppress their emotions like I was, I could teach them to be proud of their emotions and how to properly channel them into making them better. Abstinence-only sex education. Seriously, teens are going to have sex, even when told not to. Teaching them to be safe while doing it is not going to increase the odds of them fucking. It is just going to decrease teen pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections. Sex ed has made me want to do it less. Exactly, being aware of the actual consequences makes people think more. It isn't okay to fail or make mistakes. People aren't perfect and you will make mistakes. Just don't set yourself up to make ones that can hurt or kill others, drink or drug to the point where you don't know not to drive or assault someone. That different is bad. That if I don't understand it, there must be a conspiracy. If I don't win, the opponent cheated. That saying you're sorry is showing weakness. The opposite is just as harmful. Forced apologies can hurt worse than not saying sorry at all. I had to learn this the hard way. Teaching them they're responsible for how other people feel. Mommy is so sad you won't hug her. Child then feels obligated to hug her to make her feel better. Think about what this means as an adult. I once got a "mommy is sad because you kept her up all night talking about your problems." Even my mom insisted on listening and being there for me. And I was a college freshman when that happened. Guess who's still afraid of making mommy sad every time she's struggling and wants to talk with someone?